You know, after all, it was a very tough week for Nationals baseball, but let's take a step back and let's really look at the direction of this team, because I can tell you this, I'm still very encouraged.
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thank you for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Clary. You can catch me over on Twitter at RyanClary11, as well as the show page at LO_Nationals. Later on in this program, we will be discussing this A's Nationals series as the Oakland, soon to be Vegas A's, are coming to Washington, D.C. We're gonna discuss that series, and as well, I'm gonna chip in on my thoughts on the Oakland A's situation, because I think it just deserves to be talked about, and I think people will want to hear about that. But also later on in this program, let's talk about the farm system, because it's a feel-good Friday. If you want to feel good about something with this Nationals team after, again, a rough week, you get your first time in franchise history someone throws a no-hitter against you, and it's your rival in Philly. We'll discuss the farm system and have it being juiced up heading into the 2023 offseason. We'll discuss that a little bit later on. But first off, let's just take a step back and let's look at the big picture of this Nationals organization. You head into this offseason, we all know what two big free agents are looming. No, it's not Juan Soto or Trey Turner or all the superstars. It's Mike Rizzo and Davey Martinez. Now, let's start off with Mike Rizzo first and foremost here. Mike Rizzo was the architect of the Nationals that we knew back in 2010s. He was the guy who sent off Steven Souza Jr. for Trey Turner and Joe Ross. Trey Turner being the franchise greatest shortstop in the history, the long, long history of this Nationals organization, as well as Joe Ross was just a very competitive pitcher. You go out there every 5 days. Injuries really mucked up his career, but we all know Joe Ross at the end of the day was still a good pitcher. Even then, Mike Rizzo and Davey Martinez, we know the value that they add to this organization. And really, let's talk Mike Rizzo first. Mike Rizzo and what this guy has done since taking over as GM of the Nationals, it's been incredible, for just being honest. Yes, he has swung and missed on quite some draft picks. I can understand that. I can look at that and also be human and spin two plates here, because on the other hand, Mike Rizzo is also part of the fabric of the Nationals and everything that we have continued to know about this organization. I cannot say that enough. When in baseball, it is a lot harder to find a guy that can do this job and do it at such a high level the way that Mike Rizzo has done over the past 15 years. Mike Rizzo, I don't want him going anywhere. I've made that stated here before, and I'll say it again. He should not be going anywhere. If I was the Lerner family, I would give him whatever money he wants, because at this point, are you sure about finding someone who is better than Mike Rizzo at what he does? Because grass is never greener on the other side. It really isn't. Now, while you may look at the Astros, they moved on from Mike Elias, which was sort of their decision, sort of not, sort of because the Astros cheated their way into a World Series, but that's for another discussion for another day. They did fine, but not every organization does so. Beyond Mike Rizzo, you look at the farm system and where we're at now. This Nationals team, 2 years ago at the 2021 deadline, when you still had all the guys, the band was still together, Max Scherzer, Steven Strasburg, Trey Turner, Juan Soto, all those guys who meant something to this Nationals team down the line were still together. With all that said, though, this team and that team in particular, while, yes, we were a game and a half out of the NL East race at one point that season behind the Atlanta Braves, that team was not built for success. And in fact, that was probably the last little glimpse of hope that this franchise could have had. You have Kyle Schwarber in that scenario that really kind of bolstered your team in a way that was not anticipated whatsoever. the run that he went on in June, which the Nationals team then got hot in that month as well, that was when we found ourselves about a game and a half out of first place. We all know what happened. Injuries, COVID piled up. Everything that could have gone wrong then went wrong for the Nationals and much, much more. They blew it up. They had the last farm system, the dead last in all of baseball. And now just 2 years later, after trading away Trey Turner and Max Scherzer and Juan Soto and name all the stars that we have traded, you have a top 10 farm system in all of baseball. All of baseball. And I don't think people, because the popular thing to do in baseball is to point at the Dodgers, is to point at the Astros, or name that team, the Yankees, the Mets, that spend all the money in the world and say, why don't we spend money on our superstars like those organizations? And you're right. You're right. We probably should. You probably should want to keep Trey Turner and Juan Soto. But on the other hand, when this team is so bad, when this team is one, you can't tank anymore to get the top pick in all of baseball. There's a lottery, and you also can't pick in the top 10 in multiple years in a row. All of that aside, this team, no matter what you look at, needed a better farm system. They just simply did. Because you look at guys like right now, CJ Abrams, who's in the major leagues, a 22-year-old starting shortstop for a Major League Baseball team, going on really his full year one in Major League Baseball as a whole. Someone who's had a bad broken ankle in the past in his minor league days. Someone who still could be recovering, who's probably just 100% coming into this season. Last year was not the full CJ Abrams that we saw. It was not very impressive, you could say, when he got called up from AAA Rochester just last season. But you start to see the pieces. You start to see the fixtures of this team going forward. You are laying the foundation. And that is what 2023 has been about ultimately for this team and for the future. You see the foundation already growing with CJ Abrams, Mackenzie Gore, Josiah Gray, Keibert Ruiz, guys like that, and Luis Garcia, who was part of that at one point. We'll talk about that another day. All these guys who are part of this team at this moment in this time frame, these are guys that are going to help you down the line. These are the guys that I'm going to point at and say, this is the foundation of this Nationals team. If you're an everydayer out there, you probably know what I'm about to say about the year of 2023. Wins were never coming in the win column. You never were going to look at this team and say, it was a successful season because we won X amount of games. No. Wins in 2023 were coming in the development of your prospects, the development of your foundation, your Mackenzie Gore, Josiah Gray, CJ Abrams, Keibert Ruiz, Luis Garcia. Name those prospects, name those young guys up in the big leagues, and as well as down in the farm. Those are the wins that you're looking at. And so when you pile those wins up, you take CJ Abrams. He's the obvious answer that has taken a massive step up. The second most obvious answer, Josiah Gray, your all-star this year, taking a massive leap forward into really kind of pinning himself as a guy that you can rely on in the top of your rotation for years to come. Mackenzie Gore. Now, while it has been a little bit rough recently, in his first full season in the big leagues, let's just remind you this. Heading into the Astros start back in June 15th, he had a 3.74 ERA. For a rookie at his age, drafted out of high school in 2017, a young buck. That is good numbers. A 3.74 ERA is good. Now, he's gotten rocked around here over his last 10 starts, but the opponents that he has faced, they're not just some slap around nobody teams. He's faced the Astros, the Padres, the Phillies, the Reds, the Cubs, the Giants, the Brewers, and the Phillies again. He's also faced the Mets in that rotation as well, but they're not that good of a team. And the Cardinals. He's faced some very good competitive postseason ball clubs as, while it's not his rookie season, I still consider it his rookie season. This is his first full season in the pros. He stayed healthy. He's done everything that he's needed to do. Mackenzie Gore and the step up that he has taken from last season, it's been incredible in my opinion. And while it may not show in his ERA, I can see it in the strikeouts. I can see it in the advanced analytics and what this guy does best. He's generating swings and misses still. He still has his stuff. In fact, I think his slider and his curveball have improved over the course of this season. I think his fastball, while he misses sometimes in the middle of the zone, so does every 24, 25-year-old pitcher out there. I'm definitely encouraged with this organization and with the development of the guys down on the farm and as well as up in the major leagues, because I think it starts in the majors first. You have to get those guys acclimated. You have to, because you can have guys like Carter Kieboom in the past, comes up as a top 20 prospect, gets a little cup of coffee back in 2019. He's never come into the prospect that we thought he could be. Victor Robles, someone who's been injured a lot this season. While he's looked good in his short amount of time up in, well, playing baseball in general, he still hasn't panned out to what we thought he could be. Plenty of guys in the past who haven't really developed up in the big leagues, who haven't really developed to their full ability. We've seen that. We've read that book before. But now you're starting to see your Grays and Abrams and Gores being competitive up in the big leagues, and that molds well for your foundation going forward. And the foundation, in my opinion, is already set with those key guys in the majors already making a big impact. Already. C.J. Abrams has been one of the hottest hitters all summer long. Josiah Gray has been one of your best pitchers in the last few years since Max Scherzer, in my opinion. In fact, it's not even an opinion, it's a fact. So these things, they all count. Those are the wins in 2023. And now setting the foundation for guys like Brady House and James Wood and Dalen Lyle. Name that prospect. We'll discuss all those farm system guys because, as we said, the Nationals went from last to now a top 10 farm system in all of baseball in the span of 2 years. And a lot of these guys, they drafted and developed, which is a key thing when I'm trying to build a ball club. You guys can catch the A's and the Nationals tonight at 7:05 Eastern Time. Catch every pitch of the Nationals hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Nationals there. Before we get into discussing some of these prospects, I got to tell you guys about our friends over at Sleeper. And do you think tonight that you know who, Keibert Ruiz, can he hit a home run tonight against the Oakland Athletics? Well, I sure do. And on Sleeper, you can swing for the fences with up to 100 times payout. All you have to do is choose 2 or more players that you like and select more or less in their stat categories like home runs, strikeouts, hits, and much more. Get your picks right, and you could win big. And also, dynamic payouts are live. You may ask, what are dynamic payouts? In short, each player projection now is a multiplier attached to it as opposed to preset multipliers based on the number of legs in a contest. You can get higher payouts than other apps with less picks. Now, here's what you have to know. Use promo code LOCKEDON and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. And now let's get back into it, as today, again, deep breath, in and out. It is a feel-good Friday. Call it as it is. Everyone's feeling good. Good mood on this Friday. Let's talk about some farm system guys down in Fredericksburg, Harrisburg, Wilmington, whatever they may be. But let's start off with the obvious. We all want to talk about him. He's our number one guy. Some people think. Some others don't. James Wood. James Wood, who has been the guy that the Nationals really coveted at that last year's trade deadline, the guy that they could not leave Juan Soto for without James Wood coming back to Washington, D.C. James Wood has lived up to the expectations so far this season. Now, he got the bump up after 42 games in Wilmington. And what has everyone said about Wilmington? You cannot hit for power there. James Wood said, hold my beer, and had a .580 slugging in Wilmington, a 972 OPS, and 8 home runs in those 42 games since getting called up to Harrisburg. And these are stats entering Thursday night's games, so they may be a little bit different if you're checking these out Friday morning. But he has an 810 OPS up in Harrisburg. In 54 games, he has 11 home runs, 36 RBIs, 25 walks, and 76 strikeouts in those 54 games. Now, while you can look at his strikeouts and say overall this season, yes, they are up. His strikeouts are up, considering last year he had 75 strikeouts in 76 games, rather. And in 26 games in rookie ball, he had 32 strikeouts back in 2021. But over the course of his 198 games throughout his career, he sits at a 925 OPS. He has a 530 slug. Everything that James Wood is hoped to be for this Nationals organization, what everyone raves about, is the power. He does not lack power one bit. That is not something that you have to really worry about with James Wood. Now, while his numbers have shrunk a tad bit since getting called up to Double-A, this kid is still only 20 years old. He turns 21 in the middle of September. He can't even go to a bar and buy a beer. He can't even walk into Nationals Park and hand over his ID and buy a beer. But sitting at 6'7", that big, that much power, and still that much growth to go. He's already big as it is. Again, 6'7". Does that ring a bell? Aaron Judge out there? Not saying he's going to be Aaron Judge. Who knows what it'll be? It'll be James Wood. How about that? But that's the kind of prospect that we're getting into. That's the kind of power that you're entering here with this Nationals team. And in the year of 2023, power is everything. Power is the game of baseball now. And it's not even just James Wood. It's Dylan Cruz. And again, these are numbers entering Thursday's contest. Now, I could read you off Dylan Cruz stats. It's only a few games here. But what has stuck out to me is that this guy is killing the baseball. Hitting a grand slam just a few days ago. His first professional hit was a home run. His first professional game, he went 0 for 5. Oh, who cares? Who cares about that mess? James Wood and Dylan Cruz, those are your foundational pieces down in the minors. Those are your two guys that everyone should be watching, should be checking the box score every single night, seeing how those two guys are doing. Because they're going to be the difference makers come next year at this point, hopefully. Hopefully at this moment, next year, a year from now, 365 days from now, count them down. These two guys are in your outfield, roaming around and really just causing hell to break loose in the National League East. But it's not even those two guys as well. Because the one big-time prospect, first-round pick in 2021, out of high school, big-time talent, struggled last year, got hurt. Someone who was taking a huge step up is Brady House. Brady House is another one of these guys where you look at him and it doesn't really feel human-like almost, the way he hits baseballs. Now, you might be saying, Ryan, you're just gassing up these Nationals prospects. Yeah, you're right. I kind of am, because they're good. And they're starting to be recognized by big-time outlets like Baseball America, MLB Pipeline. They released their rankings last night. All these different things are kind of molding well for the Nationals to have these big three prospects, is what I'm going to call them from here on out. It's James Wood, it's Dylan Cruz, and it's Brady House. Someone who you may have forgotten about because of those first two flashy top 10 prospect big names. But these guys, all three of them, have been huge assets for this organization. And as we sit here today, again, someone like Brady House, who has developed perfectly for this Nationals team. An 868 OPS over 66 games this season in Fredericksburg and High A Wilmington. He was there for about 2 weeks, got bumped up to Double-A Harrisburg, and he's started where he left off in High A Wilmington because he killed the baseball in Wilmington. Again, put those Wilmington thoughts to bed just like James Wood did. I expect the same of Dylan Cruz whenever he's up there now. 9 home runs, 35 RBIs, 65 strikeouts in 66 games, 23 walks. This guy's been good. 19 doubles in that time frame as well. These are all things that people should be encouraged about. These are your foundational pieces down in the minors who you may not see a lot about. You may not see Bob and Franny or Charlie and Dave raving about these guys every day because they got to talk about the big league team that's sitting right in front of them. But you'd be remiss if you just glimpse by the fact and just look at the win-loss record of this team and say, man, I miss the old guys. Well, the old guys, a lot of those, Juan Soto, Trey Turner, Steven Strasburg, Anthony Rendon, Bryce Harper, all these guys went through the same steps that Brady House, that James Wood, Dylan Cruz, Jackson Rutledge are also going through as well. They're coming. The future is almost here, everybody. And also, another encouraging thought of this that, in my opinion, I should probably do a better job talking about is having your later round picks like Dalen Lyle, Jake Irvin, developing as well. Jake Irvin has been impressive as a starter this season. A rookie, someone who, we all kind of thought he'd be up here for about 2 weeks and then option back down to AAA after getting blown up. No, he's stuck in the majors and he's doing pretty well. He's competitive. He's going out there every 5 days. He's riding his pitch count up there. He's eating innings. He's doing his job. But the development of non-first round picks is something that this organization has just not been able to do over the years. Like the Dodgers who do it. James Outman. Check what round he was drafted in. He wasn't a first, second, or third round pick. I can tell you that. The guys that those great organizations, Spencer Strider, name them. Name all the prospects and the big time players for other teams that are not first round picks. They do that. Dalen Lyle has taken a huge step up for this Nationals team this season. He missed all of 2022 from Tommy John surgery. In 2021, when he was drafted in the second round out of high school, as well as Brady House, he looked decent in 19 games, not really showing much power. He walked a decent amount, 15 walks in those 19 games. But what he has done this season down in Fredericksburg, where he had an .891 OPS in 66 games. He hit 7 home runs, 48 RBIs, had 36 walks and 58 strikeouts in that span. Got bumped up to high A Wilmington. It struggled. It's been a struggle so far through 15 games, only having a .569 on base plus slugging. But the development overall of someone like Dalen Lyle just tells me that something is clicking inside this national system. It just tells me that simple fact of this, something that hasn't really clicked in quite some time throughout this organization. Because what Dalen Lyle has done, you may not hear reporters asking Mike Rizzo about Dalen Lyle. You might hear Elijah Green or Robert Hassel, the guys we didn't really talk about today because they have struggled. But imagine if those two guys as well just took that step up, just developed into what this team expected them to develop into. Because if you were to get those two guys as well, what does this team look like? What does the future look like? Those are both likely top 100 prospects for this team moving forward. And if you were to get those guys to develop the way that the Nationals and Rizzo thought they would be, man, it would be a crazy time here. It really would be. The Nationals play the A's tonight at 7:05 Eastern Time. Catch every pitch of the Nationals' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Nationals there. We're going to preview this Oakland A's National Series right after this. And now we get back into it as we are going to preview the Oakland A's and the Nationals series real quick. But also, before we get into that, let's talk about something. I'm going to assume a lot of you are Washington, D.C. sports fan. You're a Commanders fan, Wizards fan, Capitals fan, and obviously Nationals fans as well. And if you aren't, hopefully I can get you to catch on here. We know bad ownership. If you're a baseball fan, which I'm going to assume you are, you know what's happening in Oakland. Their team is getting ripped away from their arms. You can blame whatever you want. Whatever you want. But if you're a Commanders fan and as well as a Nationals fan, you know where I'm going with this. Their owner, John Fisher, is the Dan Snyder of Major League Baseball. Something needs to be said. I'll say it. He needs to be ousted like Dan Snyder. Now, I'm not going to say that he's the person that Dan Snyder is. Dan Snyder, bad person. Just leave it at that. John Fisher may not be a great person, but he ain't Dan Snyder, I can tell you that much. As an owner, though, and what this guy has done over the years, has deprived a once proud fan base that one time Washington, the NFL team, had here down the line. The Nationals, not the Nationals, Washington back in the day, they used to be the cream of the crop of the league, of the NFL. The Oakland A's, they used to be that as well. An historic organization that has developed and that has won plenty of times over the years. They're being deprived of that. So Oakland, they're coming in tonight. And I don't know what the solution is. They're going to be going to Vegas, it sounds like. I just think it is a grave mistake. And I feel for all the Oakland A's fans out there because we know what bad ownership is like. We know it all too well. I can't tell you how badly I feel for all those Athletics fans, in which, by the way, if you know, you know. A's fans are one of the best in all of baseball. All of baseball. Ask Sean Doolittle about it. He loved Oakland. Ask Ryan Madsen back in the day. They loved Oakland and the fan base there. But with that said, it sucks to say that they're probably going to Vegas, and I just don't think it's the right thing to do. But the Nationals, Yohan Adone is on the bump tonight. Again, we're seeing the six-man rotation going forward. It's going to be an exciting one. Yohan Adone tonight, I have no expectations. I know for a fact he probably will not throw 5 innings of a perfect game once again. But what Yohan Adone needs to do, he's got to throw strikes, and his fastball has got to be pinpoint. Again, only 2 pitches in his arsenal as a starting pitcher in 2023. Not that deep. Not that deep. Josiah Gray throws about 20 different pitches. Mackenzie Gore got a deep arsenal. Basically any pitcher, any starting pitcher in all of baseball has at least 3 pitches to go to. Yohan Adone, though, 2 pitches. It worked for him against the Cincinnati Reds. You're going up against a much worse team. But trust me, do not roll over on Oakland because they will surprise you. And we know what this Nationals team can do at home sometimes, while over the last few weeks, they've been hot at home. But we've seen some stretches where this Nationals team and their offense disappears when they come home. The Nationals play the A's tonight at 7:05 Eastern Time. You can catch Yohan Adone and as well as every pitch of the Nationals hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Nationals there. And some of you may be asking if you made it this far. First off, thank you guys. I really appreciate it. I have a dentist appointment today, Friday. I will be put under. I will be unavailable for the whole day. That is why this episode dropped so early in the morning. And again, let me reiterate this thoughts. The stats on the minor leaguers were up until Thursday's game. So all the way through August 9th, those were the updated stats that I got for you. So if you're wondering, well, I saw Dalen Lyle hit a home run today in Wilmington. Brady House just hit a home run. James Wood just hit 6 home runs. Dylan Cruz just went 10 for 10. I'm sorry I missed out. Sometimes it was either that or no show. And the show always goes on with the Locked On Podcast Network. I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Go Nats. We'll talk to you Monday as we'll get you a Nationals stock report. Hopefully, this team can beat the Oakland A's. I'll catch you on the flip side.